The doorbell rang at 6:13 a.m., and my world shattered. 2 deputies stood outside with court papers in hand. Vanessa Cole? Yes? You've been served. Custody hearing is scheduled for next Friday. I stared at the stack of documents. Derek wasn't asking for joint custody. He wanted everything: our 2 boys, the house, full parental rights. Inside the file were false claims, emotional instability, threats, neglect. Lies. All of it. I dropped to the kitchen floor, heart pounding, and whispered. You said you'd never use the kids against me. But I forgot, Derek never plays fair. He plays to win. The accusations were perfectly staged. Therapist notes from a counselor I'd never seen. A neighbor's statement saying I left the kids home alone. Screenshots of texts I never sent. He'd been planning this. And the worst part? Everyone believed him. He was charming. A respected financial advisor. I was just a nurse. Just a mom. My lawyer said, "It doesn't look good, Vanessa. I could lose my boys." The courtroom wasn't for the innocent, it was for the best liar. And Derek? He was already rehearsing his role. I didn't eat for 2 days. Everywhere I turned, someone whispered. Derek had poisoned the air with subtle lies. He's so composed, they said. He just wants what's best for the kids. But they didn't see him throw a lamp across our bedroom last winter. They didn't hear the threats behind closed doors. The bruises healed. But the silence? That still stung. I clutched a photo of my boys and swore. He wants a fight? I'll give him one he'll never forget. Derek's lawyer smirked in court. They filed an emergency order, temporary custody granted to him. I watched my sons walk out of the courtroom without looking back. Derek placed a hand on their shoulders and shot me a victorious grin. But pride blinds men like him. And blind men slip. Because 2 nights later, my phone buzzed. A message. Not to me. To his mistress. It read. Custody war starts Friday. Once I win, we're free. No child support. No drama. I took a screenshot, then smiled for the first time in days. That message changed everything. It wasn't just betrayal. It was proof. Proof that the custody battle wasn't about the kids. It was about Derek's pride, money, and control. I printed the screenshot. Then backed it up on 3 drives. Then sent it to my lawyer. And for the first time in weeks, I held my head high. Let them laugh. Let them lie. Because I wasn't walking into court to defend myself. I was walking in to destroy his story, word by word. My lawyer, Rachel Dunn, leaned across the table. This is your leverage. But we can't just walk in and drop it. She explained the rules. Chain of evidence. Cross-examination. The court had to see Derek's intent. We pulled his financials. Phone logs. Turns out, Derek had prepaid a luxury condo in Florida under another woman's name. All while claiming he couldn't co-parent. Rachel smirked. Judges hate liars. Especially confident ones. I wasn't ready to win yet. But I was ready to bleed and make him bleed, legally. It was no longer a case. It was war. Courtroom lights are cold. So are people who once smiled at you in church, now sitting behind your ex. Derek wore a navy suit. His public hero look. He waved to reporters outside, like this was a game show. I wore black. Simple. Focused. The judge, a woman named Janine Keller, glanced through the documents. Derek's lawyer opened with flair. He's a committed father. The mother has had emotional outbursts. I didn't flinch. Because now, I knew something he didn't. His own words would bury him. Rachel stood. Calm. Calculated. She walked the court through Derek's concern. Then she asked permission to submit one new piece of evidence. Derek looked confused. The message appeared on the courtroom screen. Custody war starts Friday. Once I win, we're free. No child support. No drama. Gasps. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mr. Cole, did you write this? He blinked. That's taken out of context. But the damage was done. His mask cracked. And I saw it, the flicker of fear in his eyes. My turn had begun. Derek lost his temper during recess. He cornered me in the hallway. You think this changes anything? He hissed. I'm still their father. I didn't respond. The bailiff saw him. Later, Rachel used security footage as evidence of intimidation. The judge issued a warning. One more outburst, and he'd be held in contempt. Derek's lawyer looked uneasy. Because now, their star client was spiraling, and everyone could see it. And I hadn't even shown them the email yet. I waited until day 3 of the trial. Then Rachel dropped the second bomb. An email chain between Derek and his mistress. If I get custody, I'll sell the house and we'll move to Florida. Just make sure the judge buys your concerned dad act face blowing a kiss. Silence. The courtroom froze. The judge looked stunned. This was sent before you filed for emergency custody? Derek fumbled. The truth wasn't a whisper anymore, it was a wrecking ball. And the court was finally listening. My story wasn't over. His was just beginning to collapse. Judge Keller tapped her gavel. We will reconvene tomorrow. And Mr. Cole. She locked eyes with Derek. I suggest you come prepared with a better explanation than taken out of context. For the first time, Derek didn't look smug. He looked rattled. Outside the courtroom, reporters began circling me instead of him. I gave them nothing. Because revenge doesn't speak, it lets the truth echo. And now, the echo was growing louder. He'd used the courts as his weapon. Now the court had turned against him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the night he threw my planner across the kitchen. Why do you need a job? He'd snapped. I make enough. You just want attention. I remembered shrinking, folding in, telling myself to be quiet. He broke me with words long before he filed papers. But now? I was a different woman. He underestimated the pain he caused. He forgot that pain sharpens you. And now, I was wielding it like a sword. Derek's lawyer requested a recess. She whispered furiously with him in the corner. I could tell she hadn't seen the email. Now she knew she was defending a fraud. Rachel leaned over to me. He might settle. But I didn't want a settlement. I wanted truth on public record. I wanted my sons to grow up knowing their mother fought. Not to destroy their father. But to prove she was never the villain he claimed she was. I stood. The room was silent. I'm not perfect, I began. But I am a mother. A present, loving, involved mother. And no court document can erase the bedtime stories, school lunches, and scraped knees I've tended. I turned to Derek. And no matter what lies you printed, I remember the truth. And now, so does this court. The judge didn't blink. She just nodded and said, Thank you, Mrs. Cole. And in that moment, I didn't feel broken. I felt unbreakable. By day 5, the tide had turned. The judge reviewed final arguments. Then she sighed and addressed the courtroom. Temporary custody is revoked. The children will return to a shared schedule immediately, pending final decision. Derek's face flushed red. He whispered something to his lawyer, who refused to respond. His control was slipping. His story was unraveling. And the judge was far from finished. She looked at me and said, Your restraint in the face of deception is noted. Very few could have handled this with such dignity. Local news picked up the story. Well-known financial advisor accused of manipulating custody case. It was subtle at first. Whispers at the country club. Clients canceling meetings. His clean image? Gone. I didn't give interviews. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. And Derek? He stayed silent, for once. Because now, every word he said was a liability. And every step I took was on solid ground. The tables hadn't just turned. I had built a whole new table, and he wasn't invited. We introduced one final witness, Mrs. Bailey, the boys' school counselor. She submitted letters from both children. Handwritten. One line from my youngest made the entire courtroom inhale. I miss Mom. She makes the monsters go away. I cried quietly. Not from sadness, from validation. Judge Keller blinked hard and nodded. Rachel whispered, "You've already won. Now we're just walking them through it." Even Derek's lawyer looked defeated. Because you can fake text messages. But you can't fake a child's heart. The judge gave both sides 5 minutes for closing remarks. Derek's lawyer went first. It was robotic. Empty. Defensive. Then Rachel stood and calmly said, "This is not just a custody case. This is a story of calculated betrayal, weaponized lies, and a mother who never gave up." She turned toward the bench. "And now, Your Honor, it's time to give her story its rightful ending." The courtroom fell silent. Even Derek looked down. The war he started had collapsed beneath him. And I was still standing. Judge Keller didn't wait. She glanced down at her papers and said, "This court finds no evidence that supports the father's claims. Sole custody will not be granted." She looked at Derek. "And I strongly advise you to seek counseling before continuing any further action." Then she turned to me. "Full joint custody. Equal time. And all defamation claims may proceed separately." My hands trembled. Not from fear, from release. The truth had been silenced for so long. Now it was louder than ever. Outside the courtroom, Derek followed me. He looked smaller now. Not in stature, in presence. "I didn't think you'd fight back," he muttered. I stopped and faced him. "That was your first mistake," I replied. He swallowed hard. I'll still see them, right?" "You'll see them," I said. "But you'll never own them again. Or me." Then I walked away, my heels clicking against marble floors. A sound louder than any gavel he thought would break me. The boys came home the following weekend. They ran through the door, backpacks thudding, laughter echoing. I'd made their favorite, mac and cheese with extra bacon. As they settled in, I realized something. The house wasn't broken anymore. It had simply been waiting for peace. We planted flowers the next morning. Yellow marigolds. New roots. New beginnings. No lawyers. No lies. Just us. Healing wasn't loud. It was in bedtime stories, Sunday pancakes, and silent prayers answered. A week later, Derek's firm suspended him. His clients pulled out. His name no longer opened doors. No one wanted to be associated with the guy who faked custody evidence. He tried to do damage control, but it was too late. The internet never forgets. Every article, every post, it all pointed to the same truth. He wasn't just a liar. He lost everything trying to ruin me. And I didn't have to scream to win. I just had to stand tall when it mattered. Rachel called me. "He's offering a public apology if you drop the defamation suit." I paused. Apologies are easy when reputations burn. But I wasn't after his ruin. I wanted space. Silence. Freedom. "Tell him I don't need his apology," I said. I got what I needed in court. Because the greatest revenge wasn't winning the case. It was taking my life back. Without letting him stain a second more of it. Months later, I stood in front of a room full of women. A support group. I told them my story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. They listened. Some cried. Some clapped. One whispered, "That was me last year." I realized my story wasn't just mine anymore. It was a map for anyone crawling out of darkness. Revenge wasn't just about proving him wrong. It was about proving myself right, every single day after. One evening, my son handed me a school project. Draw your hero. It was a picture of me. In a nurse uniform, standing in front of a house with sunshine and flowers. He'd written, "My mom doesn't give up." I tucked it into a drawer next to the custody order. Not out of pain. Out of pride. Because I survived the storm. I stood in the fire. And I walked out whole. My husband tried to erase me. But in the end, he only made my voice louder.